Yo, guys, what is going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys Dead Rock Chapter 6 live stream discussion slash review titled God Saves. Which is kind of counterintuitive with what exactly goes down in the chapter. But needless to say, intriguing. Definitely intriguing. And before I dive into that, let's talk about how Dead Rock's been so far. Okay, we're 6 chapters deep. Prior to this chapter was 5, and the 5 chapters we've had prior have been like all like solid. It's been like super solid, to say the least. Yakuto's been really interesting. And again, for those of you that know me, when we started, like Freya had a cool design. She looks really cool. But my big thing with Freya was I needed something a little bit more with her character, if you will. Like she's got a feisty personality. She's funny in all cases. But my big thing was she needs something a little bit more to her. She needs like that groundwork that Ellie had, that Lucy had in Fairy Tale, or even like say Rebecca from Eden Zero. Like I kind of want to know, like, all right, so what is it Freya has as a character, and we get that within the last 2 chapters, I think, chapter 4 and chapter 5. So going into this chapter, especially with how the last one ended, I got kind of curious with Yakuto and where he wanted to go. And that's actually a really great spot to start off this chapter. So let's go ahead. So we have this character profile that Hiro likes to do when it comes to like his series when we're starting off. Actually, I'm trying to remember. Did he do that with Eden Zero? I know for sure he did this with Rave Master. I'm trying to remember if he did this with Eden Zero. He probably did. Probably did. I'm, I mean, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm gonna look back at the Eden Zero ones just to double check. But I'm 95% sure this is like the same stuff that he's been doing. But you get Frey, of course you get her name, you get the root, which is Ifrit. Class 1F. Likes strong people, dislikes water, which is actually, it's counter opposites, right? If you love fire, you're not much of a water guy. You love water, you're not much of a fire guy. It's one of those things. But then we get the notes from her, which says her older sister never graduated from Dead Rock. We know why. So she came here to graduate and surprise her sister. But then she found out that Lozen humiliated her sister. She hates him. Which, again, is something we can kind of already figure out. After she finds out with what happens with her sister, which I'm kind of surprised that Hiro hasn't name dropped like what Frey's sister's name is, because I would have thought that we would have gotten that, and maybe he's saving that. But if I'm just saying, if it were me, I would have probably just addressed the name like right here in the notes. At least is that you would have at least gotten something. But that's just a minor nitpick on my end of things. Even so, that's not the end of her profile, because the last thing she says is she likes Yakuto, which is not a huge surprise because every time we see her interacting, it's she's always in like she's in love with Yakuto. She's kind of got the hots for him. A little bit more straightforward, if you will. Not even straightforward. A little bit more. Oh, I wouldn't even say feisty. Feisty is not even the word I would use here. Pun intended, but no. It's not even that. I'd say more outspoken about that, if you will. Because I know the big thing about Dad Rock, especially, has been, so is Mikoto the one who's going to end up with Yakuto, or is it going to be Frey? And right now, with me personally, I'm kind of 50-50 on the spectrum. I kind of get a feeling it might be Mikoto, but at the same time, if it goes down Frey, would not be surprised either. But that's besides the point. But that's all what we get for the character profiles for Frey. Now, the actual chapter in and of itself. We see the school, got this beautiful, nice backdrop image of like the night sky. Demon Ruler Training Institution Dead Rock. We see Mikoto, we see Raisin, we see Hein, we see Honey, Choco's there too. And I've actually got a this is a theory that's been going around about Choco, and I'll get to that when I get to it. But you see the papers, you see one of the teachers there. I'm taking Maxwell Sensei's place. I'm in charge of this class now. I'm Saru. His root is the great sage Heaven's Equal, Class F teacher Saru, a Monkey King character from Chinese literature. It's actually kind of interesting, actually. So that's kind of like a note of like from Chinese like literature, there was a character or like a mythological figure, if you will, called Saru. And Hero's kind of done this in the past too, where he kind of takes like certain little mythologies and he kind of like incorporates it. Not in a like in your face kind of way, but kind of like, hey, this is kind of where it's driven from. And I always think that's kind of cool with his works. But anyway, you see Chaco there. Your name is Saru, and you're like she wants to make fun of him, but then he kind of gives off the stare, and she's like, "I'm sorry." To which Honey says, "If a little glare is enough to scare you, don't provoke people. Are you?" Oh, honey, 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 honey. But regardless, you see, Saru, I hear you lot went berserk at Death Arena, and Raisin says that was Yakuto. Well, now that I'm in charge of you, I won't let you stick a toe out of line again. And you see Mikoto just staring, Heinz staring too. Honey honestly looks like he's the one who's a little bit more freaked out because you see small little inklings of sweat, just small little inklings. And then he says, What about that Yagato kid did? I'm holding the whole class responsible for it." To which you see when it goes down. He pulls some kind of like attack on them and crushes them with like boulders and shit. It's kind of messed up, but I mean, damage is damage. You know, sometimes you gotta make the consequences. That's just how it goes. I mean, there is no ands, ifs, or buts about it. You know. Anyway, moving forward, Mikoto says, "What's this?" Ow, is what Frey says. Raisin says, "Where do these boulders come from?" And Han's like, "It must be his powers." Honey, is that teacher stupid? And Saru says, "Stay like that for a while." And as that goes on, we see Yagato walking back. And yo, I'm gonna just say this right now. Yagato looking like he went through some shit. He looking like he went through some mad shit. And we kind of get an explanation of that here very shortly. Because what goes down, see him walking over, and Yagato's like, "Well, what happened, everyone?" And Raisin's like, "It's all your fault." And Mikoto lays it straight, like, "Our whole class is being punished for what you did." Frey, "Yagato, could you move these?" And he then goes like, "Oh no." Raisin, "Just get them off of us." And Honey's like, "These boulders weigh a ton." But you see Yakuto channeling in the Black Dragon power into his right arm, using the ability, freeing his friends. And Mikoto says, "Thank you." Frey says, "It's his fault we're stuck in the first place, though." And you still see him just going like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have done that, but The only thing I had to do, racing. I'm seriously gonna kill you. And then Hein in the back is just saying, yes, you caused us quite the hassle. Honey, we could have died. Hey, the bird's gone dead. Well, whatever. I see that black dragon power is as destructive as ever. That's what Mikoto says. And then you get, oh my god, why am I blinking? Yakuto, just thinking back to what happened. But this is the max I can do right now. And then we flash back to this scene over here, where he's like in chains. And we see Lilith. Your power is too strong. God ordered me to take it from you. And he's like, but my power. And then she says, be a good boy for me. And as this goes down, I mean, look, I already talked about this in the last stream I did for chapter 5. But if you see what she did and you heard like the squishing sound, I mean, look, she kind of gave him the handsy. That's what was implied in the last chapter. Here, I think it's flat out confirmed that's exactly what happens. I think it's 100% confirmed here. Because what you see over here is he says, no, stop. And you get this panel of Lilith, okay? And it looks like she's got like some kind of like drip like on her fingers. Which, I mean, look, if you're a guy and you get those kind of stuff, I mean, also just look at the expression on Yakuto's face. Like, the man looks like he got drained. So, Lilith obviously put him in a position, like a literal position, and he had like no choice. Like, the kid looked like he got like drained and everything. Quite literally, too. But Lilith says, I didn't take all of it. You need a certain level of power to live at the school. I'm leaving your dragon power in your right arm. Do your best with it. And then cutting over to the present, Raisin says, so you can't turn into a giant dragon anymore. Hein says, well, it could be a problem if you did. You seem to lose all reason in that form. And then Yakuto says, nearly all of my power was stolen over these last 3... Oh, so 3 days have passed by. The other thing. But my efforts did bear fruit. I found someone who can kill God. And essentially who we get is this Neko girl. Like, pretty much who I've been describing as like the Blake of Dead Rock. So for anyone who's seen Ruby, like, she's kind of got a similar design to this too. She's got like the cat ears and everything. But the theory I've been seeing going around for a while is that Chaco is the Neko girl. And it all comes down to the scarf that the Neko girl's wearing. Yeah, so if you look at the scarf she's wearing, and you look at the scarf that Chaco's wearing, it's almost similar. Like, if it ends up being the same color, then yeah, I can probably see it. But it's just a fun little fan theory that's been going around regarding Chaco, because Chaco's disappeared on like multiple occasions. And it's like, wait. Like, where does Chaco bail off to? Like, the one time it happened, okay, fine, whatever. But the second time? Like, I can't be the only one who finds that kind of suspicious. Like, really? Like, twice now? I don't know. Like, just... There's something more to Chaco than meets the eye. And I really actually can't wait to know more about Chaco's character and, like, wherever the hell she disappears off to. But yeah, you have Yakuto just thinking back to her. And he goes on saying, and she told me that God's weakness is written in a book. And it's in the Dead Rock library. Cars velocity. Mikoto says, Car's velocity, the gigantic labyrinth that holds all the books in the demon world? He goes on to say, so I'd like you all to help me find that book. And I love Racing, because Racing's the first one who says, are you out of your mind? Excuse me? But Mikoto says, sorry, but I have no intention of helping. To which Hines says, you little, don't you think you're being too selfish? Honey, we've got no reason to kill God, but there's only one person, like, out of, like, this group that's willing to help out Yagato, and that's Frey. She says, I'll help you. This will be my chance to kill Lozen. I'll do whatever it takes. But it's about time you told us why you want to kill God. Which has kind of been like the looming question that's been going around with Deadrock. Is that if you look at Yagato and how he presents himself, like his big goal was like, all right, we're gonna kill God. But at the same time, you notice that he's been having a few variable expressions throughout each of the chapters, and it seems like something is hidden. And Mikoto's been the one that pointed this out on more than one occasion. And now Frey's doing the same thing. Like, okay, so why exactly do you want to go forth with killing God? And I get some thinking back, and Mikoto says the same thing too. Like, yes, I want to know too. Honey, depending on what it might be, I might just decide to help you out. And Raisin off the gates like, nope, no thank you. I don't want to do this. On Hein too, he's like, I'm not interested. But I guess I'll have you tell us anyway. My goal is to graduate from the school. If you're planning to destroy Deadrock, I might have to cut you down. Like literally, he's just saying, like, look, if it comes down to destroying the school, oh hell no. Like, all bets are off. Because I need to graduate from this place. ASAP. Like that is the logistics and the entire goal of Hein. And I respect that. I actually do respect that. But I mean, yo, if we get a showdown between Hein and Yakuto, that's gonna be crazy. And I'm not talking about Yakuto who's like lost all sense of reason. I mean like Yakuto in control. That would actually be pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie. But moving forth, you see Yakuto's expression, Mikoto, Racing, Frey, Honey, and Heineken just be like, hey, just spill the beans already. Just tell us what the hell is your past. Then he goes on to say, all right. So we flash back 10 years ago. In level 644, Black Dragon Village Wicked Horizon. This place actually looks really, really nice. I ain't gonna lie. Like an old, like a super old village. See the citizens. You see a few people over here. It's Yasuma-san. Yasuma-san's back. Which, you know, we also see a very young Yakuto too. He looks over, he sees his dad. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, Yazuma got some drip. He's got some like huge heavy drip, and he is rocking 100%. And in a way, you know who he reminds me of? Not Silver necessarily. He don't look like Silver. He doesn't even look like Gale. He doesn't even look like Gale Glory. But what's that character's name from Naruto? Inari's pops, stepfather, if you will. He kind of reminds me of him a little bit, just slightly. But we'll see here. We'll see what goes on. And actually, if you look at how the village is, like, and you see the entrance, you see like the two black dragon statues, which is pretty nice. And the one thing I do want to say is that, like, the second he walks back in, Everyone is like, yo, the dude is back. This is pretty cool. And you see Yakuto being happy, like, Dad, hi. He looks over, then he gets kind of cheeky about it. Yakuto, how have you been? Welcome home. Daddy's home. And then, I actually like this because then you got Yakuto's mom popping up. Well, dear, Yakuto's not a baby anymore. Mom. And the name of Yakuto's mom is Rizuya. He's like Rizuya. And he's. I ain't gonna lie, okay? Let me just say this. Yazuma, look, he's got the drip, but he's funny too. Okay? He's pretty damn funny because he's like, oh, my beloved wife, I love you so much. And like biting off her hair and everything. And she's like, always telling you not to do that in public, remember? And stop slobbering around my mouth. You'll mess my makeup up. You'll mess up my makeup. And you see like the pouty look on his face. But then she starts getting flustered. She's like, only when we're alone. Okay? And right off the gate, without any sense of hesitation, Yazuma says, let's be alone right now. Rizuya, my love. And she's like, geez, honey. Like, can we calm down for just a damn second? Like, you just came back. But I'm pretty sure she didn't mind. But you see, like, little Yagtail being, like, super happy. And he's like, yay, daddy's home. I'm so happy. But one of the villagers says, I'm glad he made it home safely again, Yakuto. And you got this nice little, like, wink. Like, Dad's strong. His job really is something else, though. He's in God's. So this is interesting. So we come to find out that Yazuma, Yakuto's father, was actually in God's personal guard. That's interesting. God saves, right? So that's what the personal guard is. The personal. I think she sounds right. So he's a part of GS. God saves. That is essentially the unit that's a part of like God's personal guard is God's aim. I'm gonna refer to it as GS because GS sounds much has a little bit more flair to it. So he's a part of GS. He's the pride of us black dragons. He was chosen to be one of God's warriors. And then Yakuto says, but isn't God the strongest demon in the world? The strongest in the demon world, is what he says. But one of the villagers says, in the demon kingdom? No. He's the strongest in all three worlds, heaven, the demon world, and the human world. The strongest living being, so to speak. If he's that strong, why does he need God saves? I'm sorry, GS. Why does he need GS? Because his greatest enemy is lack of faith. God saves fights to purge. Those foolish enough to not believe in God, and we cut over, we see like the scenery. Essentially, what happens is we kind of flash forward a little bit. So it's like later on in the night, Yakuto's like fast asleep. As this is going down, you hear like chatter going on, and Rizuya says, "What could it be?" And Yazuma's like, "Some sort of fuss outside." And what do you know? God himself like shows up. He's here, and the citizens are like, "It's God! Oh, God is here in our village! Utterly sublime! Thanks for coming, God!" And he's like, "Is Yazma here?" Yes, sir. Right here. And as that goes down, like he says this, and like Rizuya is like right next to him, and God's like, "Is this your lovely wife?" "Yes, sir. This is Rizuya." It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And yo, when I saw this panel, I was like, okay. Like I already knew kind of the direction of where this was going. Because he starts licking like the side of his lips. And he says, "Let me have her for a night." To which, like, Yazuma's throwing off, like, what? And she's like, excuse me? There's chatter going on with the villagers. And, like, this is when Yakuto wakes up. Like, what's going on? Hey, it's God. But then you see Yazuma kind of, like, just being confused. Like, but pardon me? I don't understand. And God says, I'm saying I'll take care of her for you. She might lose some limbs, but I'll give her back. And just saying that, like Rizuya, like you can see how she's like, okay, like what the hell is going on? This is no. This is totally no. Even Yazuma says the same thing. He says, "You must be joking." And God says, "I don't joke. My orders are absolute. If you have faith in me, offering up your wife should be a mere trifle." But then he goes on to say, "But I'm a member of your personal guard." And God says, "I have no use for those without faith." Then he says this. Yazuma mentions one specific quote, and it kind of got me thinking. Because he says this, well, what happened? You're not yourself. What that's telling me off the gate, like this is even before I got to the final page. Basically, what that's telling me is the guy we see in front of us is not like in his right state of mind, according to Yazuma, because he's a part of like the personal guard, right? Which means some shit must have went down with him. But you see what's going down, and then we cut over to Yakuto, like sweat coming down and everything. And what God does, he lifts his hand up in the air and he says, "Enough." God hurricane. Like you see, like the whole village being wrecked. Like the citizens are caught up. Yakuto's parents are getting caught up. And the only thing Yazuma says is, "Who are you?" As this happens, you see God laughing. Yazuma is gone. Rizuya is gone. And dude, I'm not gonna lie. I felt bad for Yakuto. Like, holy shit. This shit was actually kind of depressing. Like, I was watching, not even, it's not even an anime yet. I'm saying I'm watching it. But I was reading this, and when I got to this part in particular, oh my god, like, shoot. Because you see what happens, and again, poor Yakuto, like, he's left speechless, like, what just happened? Because afterwards, we cut back to present. And Yakuto says, "My family and all the other villagers were massacred by God." And you see like the shocked faces from Frey, from Racing, from Mikoto, from and actually Heinz a little bit like he's not showing that he's like taken aback, but he's kind of like, well shit. Okay. He's trying to keep a straight face on, but you can kind of tell in the back of his mind, like, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. Essentially, that's what happens. But the last page we get is this. That God is a fake. I cannot let him live. And that is the end of the chapter. That is essentially the end of chapter 6. And wow. I just want to say, what a closing. Like, what a closing chapter this was for 2023. This is the last chapter we're getting for the year. And I think with how it closed was amazing. It was not even amazing, okay? because you see a little bit of the consequences that goes down because of what Yakuto did in Death Arena. You see with what happens with Mikoto, with Hyson, with Rain, with Honey, and again, Chaco is like the one character that just dips. So I get the feeling there's something with Chaco we don't know about, and I'm very curious to learn about what she has to offer for the story. And again, Saru's kind of interesting too, in his own way. And again, for me, the biggest takeaway for this chapter, I would have to say, is Yakuto's backstory. That to me was solid because we were teased about this as far back as what, chapter 3? I think. Well, let me look back. I'm gonna look back on Bedrock. So let me look at Bedrock chapter. I'm pretty sure it was chapter 3. If not chapter 3, definitely chapter 2. But I'm like 95% sure it was chapter 3. Let me see. Let's see, chapter 3. Because I know for sure it wasn't chapter 2. Um, yeah, this was chapter 3. So towards like the tail end of chapter 3, which, funny enough, if you look at the volume for Dead Rock, like if you go to the wiki for Dead Rock, um, or not the wiki per se, but like if you look on Reddit, Dead Rock only covers up to chapter 3. That is where it ends off. So I'm kind of wondering if this chapter, chapter 3, is the end of chapter 2. I kind of not. That's a chapter 2. I wonder if chapter 3 is going to be the end of volume 2. But at the same time, if you look at it, um, chapter 1 was like pretty lengthy. So that means I have two things. Either we're gonna get one more chapter for volume 2, or this is indeed the last chapter of volume 2. Which, if this is if this by itself is the closure for volume 2, I would actually be kind of okay with that. This is not a bad spot to end off at because you do get a little bit of a revelation of like, okay, so we know a little bit about Yakuto's backstory. He wasn't the one who, lost all sense of control. It was actually this guy over here. Now, the whole revelation behind God being a fake. There are two ways this can go. You could either have one side of the fandom, which I'm pretty sure it could be. I think a certain perception of the fandom is probably going to look at this being like, it's a little bit of a cop out. But on the other hand, you do kind of get an idea of why Yakuto's doing what he's doing. It's a personal matter for him. Because, actually, if you look at it, compare him to Shiki, to Natsu, to Haru. Like, I think we all said from the jump that in terms of like motivations and goals, Yakuto definitely differs from Natsu and Shiki. Definitely. Like the whole thing with Natsu was trying to find Ignia. That was his overall goal, and he did find that eventually. Haru, the big thing of him was like trying to find the Rave Stones and helping Ellie retrieve her memories. That was his whole. That was like one of the big goals that Haru had in Rave Master. For Shiki, big thing for him is saving Mother. It's a big thing for Shiki. So you kind of have like different goals for each of your each of Hero's like main heroes in like each of the series. They're all like distinct. They have like all distinct goals. Like, yeah, they might have like similar features and whatnot, which I do know A lot of people like to often criticize, yo, bro, come with different designs, man. Like, this is not cool. I'm actually okay with that. If anything, it just helps people make you feel a little bit more familiarized with their art style, you know? I mean, look, I went from Rave Master to Fairy Tale. I knew, not instantly, but like I could kind of tell, all right, this kind of gives off a little bit of a Rave Master vibe to it, which eventually I found out, oh shit, it's from the same guy that did that. So when you look at the two art styles, it's like, okay, like that's like Natsu is clearly Haru and Lucy is clearly Ellie. And then vice versa. You kind of get the same thing. Shiki looks like same thing. Now, the thing with Frey, I mean, you could say Frey is more the Ellie, Lucy, Rebecca of the series, or it could be Mikoto. Either one of the two, because they're both like pretty good in and of itself. Actually, the thing I'm curious about too is Mikoto's backstory, because I don't think we've gotten anything on her either. We've gotten one for Frey, and we've gotten one for Yakuto. Oh, and Raisin. We've gotten Raisin's backstory too. So yeah, no, that gets me curious actually with the other two characters, especially Chaco. I don't know how many times I have to say that, especially for Chaco. But overall, big highlight for me with this chapter was the backstory for Yakuto, getting to see his parents. That dynamic was like funny. It was kind of wholesome, and the whole revelation with God and kind of what went down with the village, amazing. No, I'm gonna take it a step further. Pure perfection. This chapter was pure perfection in more ways than one, and I really cannot wait to see with what we get with chapter 7. And with that being said, you guys, that is all I gotta say when it comes to this live stream discussion on Dead Rock Chapter 6. Well, let me know what you guys' thoughts were on the chapter. Did you have any gripes with it? Y'all have things y'all liked about the chapter? How do y'all feel about Yakuto's backstory? And how do y'all feel about the whole revelation of God being fake? And where do y'all think this is going to go? Like, how long do y'all think Dead Rock is actually going to last for? Because I do know Hero did state that Dead Rock could last a little bit longer than he originally anticipated for. Because for those of you that don't know, Dead Rock is intended to be a limited series. But Hero might be having second thoughts because, it's kind of gathering like more ideas for the story, which I'm not gonna lie, it's actually kind of intriguing. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are on that. And aside from that, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Dead Rock and Hiro Mashima content, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.